Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Wase wangu wa night shift. Tumetoboa, almost kutoboa hii shift. So, this morning I want us to be encouraged by these words. They were written by Apostle Paul in the book of Romans chapter 15 verses 4. It's a very important scripture for you to learn because this is or has been for me a motivator, or this is also the reason as to why I read and I study the Bible. It says in Romans chapter 15, and now for whatsoever things were aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope. Now, the NIV version reads the same scripture like this. For everything that was written in the past was written to teach us, so that through the taught in the and the encouraged we might have hope. Now another ESV, English Standard Version, says, for whatever was written in former days was written for our instruction, that through endurance and through the encouragement of these scriptures we might have hope. Now, you may ask, why do we use the Bible as the manual? I will tell you that this is one of those key pillar scriptures that helps us understand the Bible. Number one, we are told that whatsoever was written in the past, it was written for our own instruction. We, the people who are living today, the scriptures were written for us, that we may learn from them. They therefore becomes a tool that can be used for learning or teaching, just as the other version states. And when we use scriptures to learn, or when we allow the scriptures to teach us, then we will not be found ignorant. A caution that Paul brings forth to his writers. He occasionally tells people, brethren, I do not want you to be ignorant. And therefore, the way we can reduce or entirely eliminate ignorance is through studying which was written in the past for our own. And as that portion of the scripture continues to say, it is so that we may have hope through the endurance, encouragement. You see, the stories that are narrated in the scriptures, the stories that are told in the scriptures, they provide us, we who live now and those who will live after us, the generations to come, the patience, the endurance. They teach us the things that those people went through. Now, you may read the story about Noah. Now, I'm not persuaded that we will have such an episode in our time, but we can take that story of Noah, for example, and learn from it, because this is exactly what that scripture teaches, that the things that were written in the past was written to teach us. So when you take a story like the story of Noah, it's supposed to teach you something, okay? Because this portion says that they were written so that through the endurance and through the encouragement of those scriptures, we might have hope. In a situation or in a world like ours, the issue of hope is crucial. So many people have lost hope. The pandemic has brought forth instances and issues that will make people not to be hopeful. However, not everybody has lost hope. You know, the business people, some have lost hope, others are still enduring, hanging in there, trusting that things will change. And I personally believe that things will change. And also, the hope that this is not the end of the world. Now, different schools of thought may bring forth such arguments. Oh, we just in the beginning of. I am not persuaded that this is the beginning of the end. Number one, there is nothing like the end of the world. Nobody, nowhere. Scriptures actually don't teach about this world is not quick. And you will hear often the people saying, the world is coming to an end. The world is coming to an end. Now, where do they get that information from? I don't know, because I don't think I have read that in the scriptures, and I have done a thorough job studying and reading. And for when we do not see that which was written in the past, we cannot have the hope that is needed to endure and to go forth with life. Therefore, these stories were written for our own learning. There's this, actually, you can learn virtually everything from the scriptures if you employ yourself to be a student of the word, or somebody who has a teachable spirit. If you do not have a teachable spirit, no matter how much, no matter who ministers to you, it will not work. Because if you are just going to learn from the stories that and things that happened long time ago, we have so many people who are skeptics. They don't believe that, for example, the story of Noah existed. They don't believe the story of Akina, Job, and all those guys in the Old Testament. And maybe they are right in their own interpretation of things. But for you and me, those who have taken the worldview, our worldview being shaped by the teachings of the scriptures, having a teachable spirit is very crucial, because it is out of this teachable spirit that these stories will make sense. Now, again, we are looking at Romans. In the past, they were written to teach us. And therefore, out of every story that you read from the scriptures, it is supposed to teach you something. You're supposed to learn endurance, you're supposed to learn patience, you're supposed to learn matters faith, you're supposed to learn hygiene, you're supposed to learn literally everything to keep going in this life. You see, the Apostle Paul continues, when he writes this epistle to the Romans, he starts that chapter 15 by saying that we who are strong ought to bear with the failings of the weak, and not to please ourselves. Now, how can that be practical? You see, you have to, number one, admit the position that you are in as an individual. Are you the strong one in a situation, or are you the weakling? So he says that we who are strong, you see, he already identifies or gives credit to you and me as the strong people. And therefore, that is a position that we ought to tackle this life from, the position of strength. You see, the Apostle Paul would write to the Philippians, and in that there's a very quotable verse there, that I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That is how God looks at you, that you are not the weakling, that you will not always be the weakling, but you will be the strong one. Because he says, we who are strong have an obligation to bear with the failings of the weak. You see, those two people will always exist. in this life, there will always be a strong person, there will always be a weak person. And in most instances, you will play either the strong or weak person. Now, and then he continues to say, each of us, our neighbors, for their goods to build them up. Please their neighbors in order to build them up. You see, there's a story in the New Testament that talks about the neighbor, and we've always asked ourselves, who is your neighbor? Is the neighbor the guy that you say hi to every morning? Is your neighbor that individual that is unknown to you? Who is your neighbor? Anyway, he says that we should please our neighbors for their goods and